Hi, welcome back to Mysteries channel. Today I'm going to do a video on the Gateway program. When I first read about it, I was confusing it and thinking that it was a continuation of the Stargate program, which was, it has a long list of projects before it. Centerlane, Sunstreak, Stargate, and then I thought it continued into Gateway. I was wrong. Gateway is not a continuation of those programs. It's almost like they went with another research institute and they went a different direction. Those other projects I mentioned were all remote viewing projects. Gateway is not remote viewing. It's something different, and it is super crazy because it reminds me a lot of Dolores Cannon and what she did. So I don't know, maybe it was about 15 years ago, I read a book called Many Lives, Many Masters. The author's name is Brian Weiss, and he is, I believe, it's been a long time, but I believe he was a psychologist. He's used hypnosis as a way to help free his patients from past trauma. What he noticed is what Dolores Cannon noticed, in that when you got to a certain level of progress with your past baggage and you were in a certain level of trance-like state, sometimes something odd would happen. I won't go all the way through it in case you guys don't know about those people. Look at Brian Weiss and Many Lives, Many Masters, Dolores Cannon, and what she talks about. And the Gateway program is along those veins, I'm telling you. So the remote viewing projects all seem to go through the Stanford Research Institute. The Gateway program went through the Monroe Institute for Applied Science. Before I go into the CIA part of it, their paperwork, it's called the Psychotronic Universe. I will go over some other stuff I found. These are 3 things I found from the Monroe Institute. One is the presentation on the Gateway program, and then tomorrow I'll get into the Psychotronic Universe, and that is a long packet of documents, I believe 29 pages or so long. So when I'm going through those, I'll probably do a few sections at a time. So day 1, it might be A, B, and C, or A and B, depending on how long it is. And then after that, I'll get to the even crazier stuff CIA has. That being said, let's get to it. Okay, the first document I'm going to show you was approved for release by the CIA on September 10th of 2003. It is from the Monroe Institute of Applied Science. It is a communication about the Gateway process and the Gateway program. Purpose: Gateway is dedicated to the development and exploration of human consciousness. It is a system of exercises designed to aid the individual in the improvement of his own consciousness, so that he may know and understand better his higher self, that he may learn and experience profound areas of expanded awareness, achieve and willfully control his physical body in the out-of-body state, communicate and visit other energy structures and realities. History. Originally, the M5000 research project. The present Gateway program is the result of over 3,000 test exercises involving 1,932 participants conducted by the Institute over the past 10 years. Assisting in the development of the program have been researchers in many disciplines from various parts of the country. Reports from participants are available in other Institute bulletins. Many indicate significant constructive changes in life attitudes and overview. The basics of the Gateway training process are the frequency following response, FFR, and hemispheric synchronization, hemisync, created in the electrical patterns of the brain by the introduction of specific sound pulses, both singly and binaurally, into the human auditory system. Robert Monroe was granted a generic patent for this method and technique in 1975 and assigned it to the Institute. By blending and sequencing such sound pulses, it is possible to aid the individual to develop states of consciousness not ordinarily available to him. Evidence of this is shown in bilateral EEG studies, which indicate the generation of high-amplitude, narrow-frequency waveforms sweeping throughout the cortex in direction consequence of such audio signals. Practical application. The typical Gateway session consists of a series of conducted pre-recorded exercises utilizing both FFR and hemisync and vocal guidance to achieve progressive states of consciousness. These are heard through stereo headphones while in a relaxed position under the supervision of Institute trainers and technicians. Reinforcement of feedback learning of such states is enhanced by lectures, discussions, and single interviews using standard accelerated learning techniques. Goals are achievement of Focus 3, basic hemisync. Focus 10 is mind awake, body asleep. Focus 12, expanded awareness. Focus 15, no time. And Focus 29, other energy systems. Structure. Gateway sessions are held in these formats at various locations throughout the country. Excursion, an introduction and experiential 1 day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Discovery, development of primary gateway states with emphasis on learning to self-direct and control consciousness in entry and return. Long weekend, Thursday night through Sunday noon, room, meals provided. Voyage, incorporating all previous gateway training, plus exercises in use and direction application of such added consciousness and individual exploration of other energy systems and realities. A full 7 days from Saturday night to Sunday noon a week later, held only at the Institute Center in Virginia, room and meals included. Exploration and advanced meeting only for those participants who have completed the Gateway Voyage session, reinforcement of all Gateway consciousness states, group penetration of other energy systems, one-to-one exploration, 4 to 7 days held only at the Institute Center in Virginia, room and board included, and participation. The Gateway program is now open to individuals who are intellectually curious or possess latent talents and abilities, subject to acceptance by the program director for application and program schedule, right or phone, and it gives you the 2 numbers to call. I will say that I thought it sounded kind of culty. I looked online to see if anyone else had made any comments on the Monroe Institute and the Gateway program, and I did see a lot of people comment out there from the 60s all the way up to present day. People are still taking this program, and I don't know, it looks like they've had an interesting go of it and recommend it. At least what I found so far. I guess if anyone had a psychotic break from it, they probably wouldn't be on the internet talking about it though. All right, the next one I'm going to go into is the Monroe Institute of Applied Sciences presents the Gateway program. Now, I'm not going to read this verbatim off of here because it would probably take me 15 years to read it, but I will go through my own synopsis of it. However, if you are interested in reading any of these documents that I go over, I will link it in the description so you can go over it yourself at your own pace and read it in its entirety. In 1958, Robert Monroe, a New York broadcasting executive, began having experiences that changed his life. Unpredictably, without willing himself, he found he was leaving his body via a second body to places far removed from his physical or spiritual reality. These episodes led Monroe to the possible connection to non-verbal audio patterns and their effect on brainwaves. And this, my friends, is where binaural beats and frequency following responses come into effect. Monroe found that employing these 2 methods, you could promote synchronization of 2 hemispheres of the brain. In May of 1975, he received a generic patent for this method. The purpose is to get an individual to focus 15 and higher. Meanwhile, at the Institute, they were training individuals at the art of becoming conscious of one's particular inner resources, inner abilities, and most of all, inner guidance. The goal was to achieve profound levels of self-exploration. They also recognized that in Western society, the idea of knowledge would have to be enlarged to register non-physical events. To combat this situation, they began training individuals to switch their perception to areas or fields outside the realm of our physical realities, examine the data presented, and bring it back with them, relaying it to researchers. This presented problems. The problem was that often the experiences in these non-physical realities appear to be in and come from a greater consciousness than our usual consciousness in physical matter reality. And this is where the program begins. The Gateway program was used to provide instruction, training, and the proper environment for making this transition into the truly unknown. How it works. How it works is pretty interesting. Basically, a group of 20 or so people build a schedule that consists of socializing with one another, then repeatedly subjecting themselves to a progressive series of frequency following response recordings. These frequency following response recordings are a series of non-verbal audio patterns, most of them masked by pink sounds such as waves at a beach or wind rustling leaves of a tree. Some of the patterns are superimposed upon one another and some are singular. The pattern may change to be slowed or be more rapid. This is because the brain and mind are complex and must be coaxed into certain formations by an orchestration of complex audio patterns rather than by a static mix of audio frequencies. Verbal instructions are then carefully synchronized into the audio pattern in the recordings, demanding that the listener not wait passively for new experiences to overtake them. The listener must use a large amount of volition and concentration in order to cooperate with the verbal instructions in the conducive environment generated by the audio stimulation. The claim is that the brain and mind do respond with great regularity to shifting FFR patterns. Through studying the brain response, researchers noted that in brainwave profile, strong regular shifts of frequency, the power of frequency, changes in the amount of synchronization also changes the way the brain reacts. And with that being said, it kind of breaks down like this. For a week, they have 20 people listening to random recordings, like the ones mentioned a moment ago, at varying times throughout the day for a week. These recordings are sometimes played one at a time, sometimes many played on top of one another, and the schedule is not an actual schedule. The whole point is to shock your system out of the norm. Sometimes it happens back to back, sometimes there's a long gap between it, but the point is you are exposed to a lot of these FFR frequencies throughout the day for a week. This helps break the normal formed frequency that already exists in your brain. In the beginning, they listen to the masked audio patterns without any instruction. This is done randomly and in a way so that the mind cannot conceive of an actual schedule, so it cannot prepare for what is going to come. These recordings create a level of relaxation. Then the participant listens to recordings while counting slowly to 10. Then another technique is introduced, and that is suggestion. This process is repeated several times with the objective of the participant finally reaching focus level 10. Now, throughout this paper, it says over and over again that it is possible that everyone can reach this level, but the more baggage you carry inside of your brain, the more you got to work through that, the longer it's going to take you to get there, and that many people were turned away from the program because they had too much past stuff to work through, and they really wanted to study. They weren't trying to fix people. They were just trying to study this other part of reality. Once focus level 10 is achieved, individuals might find themselves thinking more with images than with words. Strong energies similar to electrical or vibratory sensations begin to flow. Researchers term this non-physical energies. To establish control in this state, series of exercises are performed using very simple imaginary tools for gathering, focusing, and distribution of these energies. Focus level 12. This is the next stage of the gateway process. This stage is presented with a different, unmistakable stage of energy. This is an expansion of mind with a charged feeling. This feeling may also accompany what is termed high dreams or out-of-body experiences. Participants are gradually and carefully brought to Focus 12 in a controlled introduction, coming back to Focus 10 until participants become acclimated to Focus 12 and become more comfortable. The point is to get them to get to Focus 12 to be able to stay in there for longer periods. So they bring them to Focus 12. They're only able to stay there for a short amount of time. They bring them back into 10 and then try to get them back to 12. And this happens many times until they are more comfortable to spend more time in this higher degree of focus. Once they are able to stay in Focus 12 longer, this enables participants a more direct contact with their larger self. This larger self may appear in the form of an external guide or guides, may be an inner voice, an internal movie character, or an inner knowing. And this is the point that you are open to a great creative expression. At this point, the participant's life increases in both responsibility and complexity, while at the same time a better ability to handle new situations. After much practice in Focus 12, participants find that they can control their out-of-body experiences. These processes and the focuses take a lot of time, and this time is needed to reduce the culture shock of what you will learn and what you will expose yourself to. After much practice, participants find themselves able to roam between energy systems. Once you are strong enough and stable in Focus 12, you will then start to begin moving towards Focus 15. Focus 15 is yet a different energy level. Focus 15 is marked by a different set of energy systems, marked most of all by the non-significance of time. Not only is time insignificant, but it is non-existent. And once participants are stable in Focus 15, they begin to gain the ability to manipulate time. This is also a point when people started getting to the level of Focus 15, the Institute noticed a phenomena that occurred with many participants, and this phenomena can appear between Focus 15 and Focus 12 and Focus 15, but more typically within Focus 15. The Institute states that there is a guiding figure that will lead the participant explorer out of their body and jump in, then communicate through that participant. The onset of this phenomena happened with several participants, each without knowing about the other's experiences. The onset of this phenomena was astoundingly similar, and the information passed from this guiding figure had a high degree of correlation between all participants. The Institute gives a disclaimer that they do not promote this information, nor do they make claims of its authenticity, but they have been impressed by the quality of the messages. And then this is basically the conclusion of the presentation. At the very end of the presentation, they have their affirmation, and it states, "I am more than my physical body because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand and experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and those who follow me. Also, I deeply desire the help and the cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of these individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience is equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires." And that is the end of the Institute's presentation of the Gateway program. This is the last one I want to show you. This is another affirmation I found. This comes up on the CIA website, but it is from the Gateway Intermediate Workbook. The first affirmation is the same affirmation I just read to you from their presentation. But there is a second affirmation on here. The second affirmation states, "I open this channel of communication only to those whose knowledge, wisdom, development, and experience is equal or greater than my own. I restrict such contact and communication to constructive purpose and reject all other. I open such channel only when I so consciously desire. At all other times, this will remain closed." And I'm just going to say that this really reminds me of the whole Dolores Cannon stuff that she has, and the early researchers that were doing hypnosis on people. They talk very similarly about what these guys are doing, only in this situation, it's more of a self-hypnosis and not somebody else hypnotizing you. It is interesting that something seems to step in once you hit a certain level of focus, or if you get into a deep enough hypnotic trance, something else comes through. I looked to see if they ever wrote down what was said by this entity, not in the CIA portion of it and not in the Monroe Institute portion of it. But if you're interested, I would look up Dolores Cannon because she's got a lot of books out there of what is said by these, I think she called them masters. So anyway, this is installment 1. Tomorrow, I am going to go over the psychotropic universe. I'll go over section A of it, and I'm telling you, it is like some math brain stuff. So wish me luck. I hope you're interested, and leave me a comment in the bottom if you think this totally sounds like Dolores Cannon.